gorgeous human beings of charisma and of the We Are Alpha Femme membership. Okay, first of all, I love your questions. And I was actually telling the Alpha Femme team before I came on here, I'm like, I have a feeling we're going to end up adding another module because I don't know how I'm going to get through all these questions that I want to. So we're going to do our best to get through as many as possible today. And then depending on how it goes, we may add another call on Monday. Maybe, possibly, maybe, often, maybe it means yes. So let's see how today goes, but let's dive in. So the first question that we have, Alpha Femme team is going to feed them to me as we go so that I don't have to look up my phone. I'm trying a new thing today. We'll see how this goes. So let's have the first question whenever you're ready, Alpha Femme team. Good morning, everyone. Ricky, I'm happy to see you. I feel like I miss you. I feel like I haven't seen your face in a while. I'm happy to see you. Good morning from Idaho. Oh my gosh, I have such stories from Idaho in my life. Crazy stories. Good morning from Missouri. Okay, here's the first question. So the charisma call has shifted my belief of what it means to be charismatic completely and forever. And I'm grateful that when I enter the room, I immediately spot people who seem to be the center of attention in my head and I'm drawn to them. But then I'll almost always shy away from engaging in conversation. Could there be a reason why? So yes, of course. So when another person is confident and another person is charismatic, sometimes it feels like, well, they're the only one. Based on the authority that we've all been brought up to believe, there's only room for one. And so this is why it's so important that we compound all of these teachings together, because it's not just about there's just one charismatic person in the room and everybody just listens. It's got to be charisma attracts charisma. And so it's having the confidence to go up to that person and be like, I love your vibe. You know, thank you for bringing the energy. You know, I felt you the minute I walked into the room. You're such a presence. This is amazing. It's actually connecting to the person and recognizing them. Value sees value. For those of you who've done the currency program with me, value sees value. And so it's so easy to be like, oh, if that's the one, I'm not the one. But really, we recognize in others what we have in ourselves. And if it feels good when we recognize it, it means we haven't needed to compete with it. It means equal power, but different together we rise energy. So if you can recognize power in the room and actually go connect with it, there's a lot of great things coming your way. But what might be scary is how I don't want to outshine this person. This is a thought when only one person can shine. I don't want to look like I'm trying to take away from this person. These are only things that happen when only one person can shine. What if I don't look as good as this other person? Again, it's the same kind of mentality as there's only one best instead of being part of the greats. And so it's just noticing that mentality and how deep it goes for us that we really will look at the one powerful person in the room and say, oh, that spot's taken already, instead of that's where the party's at. And if we can imagine being the one charismatic person in the room that everybody else says, oh, now I can't be my best because she's here, that would be the worst feeling. What we actually would prefer is for the people in the room to go, that's where the party's at. So it's giving that the same energy that we actually hope for when we become successful. This is one of the biggest breakthroughs I think I've had in building my career and building my identity to the way that I am right now. A lot of it was like, when I'm successful, will I want people to think this about me? The whole like, oh, well, she's so successful, so she probably won't care about me. You know what? There's one successful person in the room, so no room for me. Like, would I want to be the one people say that because of? Like, no. So then why am I saying that about other successful people? How would I want people to see the room if I were in it and I were the charismatic one? I would hope for connection immediately. I would hope for the vibe, like meeting my people, the magnetism effect. So the more you can build your own confidence and conviction and charisma and connection and, you know, currency, the more you're able to build all those things within yourself. When you see another person with it, you can actually go where the party's at. And so for now, when it does happen, just notice you still see separation. It gives you something to contemplate. It's no success or failure. This is something to build towards, but that's definitely what I would focus on in an instance like that. And it's normal because we've been taught that there's only one best. And we're rewiring that, saying that we're one of the greats. And it might take us a minute for our nervous system and our intuition to tap into that before it taps into the first original paradigm that took you all of your life to build. Like, give yourself compassion. It might take a minute. You might have to have the response that feels like, oh wait, no, that's not what I want to think anymore. And then have a second one. It might not just be second nature right away. So if you catch the old belief and you beat yourself up about it, you're right back to where you started. If you catch the old belief and you are like, holy crap, I just caught that. I never would have caught that. That would have just been the way I am. I wouldn't have even questioned that. Now I did. There's a second voice in my head, the voice I was and the voice I want to be. And the voice I want to be just caught that and went, no, 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 no. And that's amazing. I love this voice. Okay, hang on. What else do I want this voice to say? Okay, so how do I change this? And it's having that possibility of bringing in another option. Whereas before, no awareness, no options. Now awareness equals options. And it doesn't always mean you'll pick the most enlightened option either. Sometimes you'll just be like, I don't care about my enlightenment. I'm pouting. I'm right. Everybody hates me. And you might get sucked into the old way and not be able to go. But at least you've got the awareness. That's step one. And then being able to do something about it, step two. And then actually turning it around, step three. And then actually celebrating it, step four. Like, there's different parts of this, and eventually it becomes second nature. And then another one of your limitations will pop up and you'll have to work through that, because this is the game of life. It is the song that never ends, and it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started singing it not knowing what it was, and they'll continue singing it forever just because this is the song that never ends. This is life. Forever and ever, just because it is the life that never ends. It is the problem that never ends. There's always another part of you, another identity, another place you could go, a higher version of you forever and ever and ever, because it is a life that never ends, and it goes on, and there's another thing, and then you nail that on the head, and then there's another thing, and it goes on and on, because it's the song that never ends. And if you need it to end, you'll just get frustrated with yourself, because it's the song that never ends. You just got to get with it and just what's next and get back in it and just keep growing, because the alternative is eventually it all just dies and we've got nothing left to do, and all our goals have been hit, and nothing else excites us, and nothing else lights us up, and we're perfect, and we bug everybody with our perfectness, and there's nothing else to say except who we used to be. Don't know about you, but I'm not very excited about that. So bring on the song that never ends. Let's see what else we got for all of our lives, and let's just keep walking this evolution and growth over a lifetime. Okay, next question. Next question is, what do you do if expanding the curiosity of people who don't resonate with us and it doesn't lead to more connection? So what do I do if I'm trying to expand my curiosity for people who don't resonate with me, and it doesn't even lead to more connection? Or what if it's still super one-sided? Like, I'm curious, but the other side of people or the other people aren't looking for connection. So for example, in some places, a lot of communication is based on gossip, and my way of communication is less valued and less popular. How do you stay lighthearted when it feels fake? What do you do if you're surrounded by people from other countries or cultures? They value different things. You have different charisma quotients. Like, how do we do that? So I love this question for so many reasons, but the first thing I want to tell you is that no matter what is going on around you, you are still allowed to leave. Like, if you're not enjoying the conversation, you get to walk away from it. You don't have to sit in conversations that don't excite you. And you're at this point, if you're here, you've got stuff going on. You've got a business, you've got a relationship, you've got kids. It's so easy to just go, I'll be right back. I've got to take a phone call. I'll be right back. I've got a couple of things to check on, and just go call your kid for a second. Get yourself back in the vibe. Go call a friend, go to I just need to speak to a friend. Just go call a friend and be like, hey, how you doing? Get yourself in the vibe again, and then go back in a different circle of conversation or with a different energy. You don't have to just stay there. You can walk away. You can say, I've just got some business to tend to. and go check your Stripe account, your Facebook, your Instagram, your emails. Just do a little round and go right back. You had some business to check up on. Like, you have a lot, you're up to a lot in your life. It's okay if you want to take a minute to go check on your own things when something isn't valuable to you. But you can say it in a fun way, like, okay, I'll see you guys in a minute. I'm just going to go check up on some business. Go do what you've got to do, come back. But I have learned so much about myself in sitting in discomfort when I don't want to be somewhere. And I realize, like, whoa, I'm a big kid inside when I'm like, I'm bored. I don't want to be here. This conversation sucks. This is boring. I want to talk about this. I want to do something else. All of that inside of me is definitely not Melanie Ann Layer. All of that is like little 5-year-old who's like, can we go for ice cream now? Like, I'm just done with this. This is boring. Can we play a game? Can we do something? This is boring. So bringing my adult mind to the table and being like, suck it up, buttercup. Can you have a moment where you're not interested for 5 minutes? If you're expecting people in life to listen to you for hours, can you have a minute of like, give them a second to talk about something you don't care about? And I was like, oh gosh, yes. So let me just be quiet. Let me just listen. And what's mind-boggling is how often in my life I have listened with charisma, because listening and listening with charisma is different. Listening is like, okay, it's your turn, what? Listening with charisma is like, go for it. It's your turn. I'm open, I'm here, and I'm giving you my presence. When I listened with charisma, my subconscious learned. Whether I cared about what I learned or not actually doesn't really matter. But the wild thing, one of the craziest things that has happened, and I'm going to tell you more stories about this first client in the coach program this year, but one of my first clients was a commercial real estate broker in Brooklyn, New York. And he was a whole situation. I used to have a call with him every morning at 5:30 a.m. for 15 minutes. So he didn't have a typical coaching package like everybody else. He told me exactly what he needed, and he needed some very specific things. I'll tell you about this eventually. But the thing with this client is he would often tell me exactly how the meeting was going to go and like need my support in how to think and how to be. I'm not a commercial real estate agent, but somehow there was a way in the negotiation or the energy or whatever that I could help him with. And so I remember him telling me things, and I didn't need the details because it was more the energetics I was helping him with. But he trusted more that I could help him if I knew all the details. Does that make sense? Like, he wanted to tell me, even though I didn't need any of it, I still listened. Well, years later now, we have a commercial real estate building, and sometimes there's conversations that come up and I realize that I know what they're talking about. And I'm like, this is crazy. I don't look like a dumb, I don't know what we're talking about. I'm actually like, all this, I know this, I've heard this. I'll do a little more research to freshen up. And even sometimes I'm like, but doesn't that mean, and then it's like, oh, what? Like, how come you, okay, so you're not completely clueless, you know, like there's a feeling of, I know how to be here somehow. And this is from listening with charisma to a person that I did not need to listen to with charisma at the beginning. I could have just let him blah, 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 and then just given him the energetics, but I listened with charisma and my subconscious learned, and now I get to use it. This has happened to me in other ways as well. My brother, when he was at school, everything he learned with his engineering business, later on, things happened, issues with construction projects, and I'm like, I know what's happening. How do I know what's happening? Because when I went on a trip to Iceland with my brother and he told me things, I listened with charisma. Because when he said, come see the bridge I just built, and he showed me certain things about how you can make things hold that aren't supposed to hold, when I wanted a very oddly shaped ceiling, all of a sudden, I kind of knew that there were things that were possible. And then I didn't sound like just oh, well, if you can't do it. And so how is it that there's things sometimes you're like, I know nothing of what you're talking about, and I feel like I'm not valuable in this conversation because I don't know anything, so I can't speak. If instead you're like, I'm valuable in this conversation because of my listening, and any person who's actively listened to can actually have a huge breakthrough in life, so let me just listen. Little do you know, when you listen with charisma, you learn. Even like, watch yourself when you come on a live stream. a training. Are you listening with charisma or are you just listening? Sometimes I'm not judging. I'm not saying this to judge, but like if you're laying in your bed, half asleep with, you know, 3 chins sparkling in the moonlight with the way you're just laying in your bed, you're not listening with charisma. Like I have to remove you from the people I'm looking at, or else I think I'm doing a terrible job. I'm going to move the screen to the people who are sitting in their chair and are looking at me and have charisma and they're listening, because that's a better relationship for me. But I know for a fact, those are also the people who are listening more and who are hearing me more, because they're listening with charisma. It's going into their subconscious. They're there. So listen with charisma. It'll blow your mind what you might learn. But if you don't want to be there, you're always allowed to leave. The other thing that I've found is that a lot of listening to things that completely blow my mind, where I'm like, how can people be so obtuse? This is wild. If I can actually listen with curiosity, not to be connected to them, just to not disconnect from the energy of the room. So I still seem plugged into the room, and I am plugged into the room, but what I'm really experiencing is a breakthrough around my next coaching program. What I'm really experiencing is a whole module based on people being a certain way. And I'm listening with curiosity, like, wow, this is really the way that certain people are. It'll give me a breakthrough. And, you know, I was so disappointed that someone wrote a really rude comment on one of my social media posts or something. And then I'm listening to 2 people speak and I'm like, from this point forward, you're the face of the person who writes mean things on my stuff, because I can make perfect sense of it if it's you. Like that face saying something rude. I keep imagining a sweet, gorgeous person, because I look at you guys and I'm imagining a sweet person like this being upset. It's like, it's not them. It's this energy of person. Well, I can get behind that. Sometimes I get a breakthrough. It's like, whoa, I'm not around people like this often. This is actually what they're going through. This is their energy. This is the tiredness, the exhaustion, the anger, the judgment. Like this is where they're at when they're writing a comment like that. And then all the compassion comes over. It's your face, I'm going to imagine. The tired, exhausted, angry person. That's the person. Okay, I have compassion now. So if you contemplate and you let yourself be in the room without shutting it down, there's a series of things that you can get. Compassion, learning of something, a breakthrough, content, you know, stuff to contemplate on your own, forgiveness about stuff, a realization about yourself. Like, gosh, is that what it looks like when I'm not aware and I'm gossiping at a table with my friends and other people can hear me? Like, whoa. Oops. Like sometimes you don't realize people are listening. Like I can hear everything those people are saying. Oops. Oh, wow. Like what awarenesses can you have? And when I brought that to the table, most of the time I can stay in the room unless I really there's no value for me whatsoever. And I really don't feel like my listening is even providing value. But the key here is I don't take it personally that my listening isn't creating value. So I won't leave in a huff. This is a thing you want to check. Are you like, well, nobody cares about me, so sorry, I'm going to go check up on my business. It's like, okay, coast is clear. I don't feel anything here and they don't feel me here. I can walk away, do something else, shake the energy and come back, and I won't lose my charisma. I won't lose the connection. It won't feel like I'm punishing them for not paying attention to me, because I'm not. I'll just say, keep talking. I'll be right back. I'm going to go check on my business. And then I go and I sit in the toilet if I need to and just breathe for a minute and go look and check my stuff and get myself back in my zone, and I'll go back in. But I need that less and less now, because I truly find a value in almost everything. It's kind of wild. So that's my answer to that one. Let me just see. Do you fear staying engaged in a gossip conversation lessens mojo? Yeah. So let's say people are just totally gossiping. That's one where I might just say, I'll be right back. Because the only other way out is to say, I don't really like gossiping, which probably is not going to go well. But if it's actually being mean about someone else, I will very easily say, oh my gosh, that's so odd that you've had that experience, because I actually really like that person. Or I don't know that person enough to say anything about them. Like, how do you know them? And then very often what happens is they don't know them either. And then they feel really awkward. And then the conversation changes really fast. So if it's a person, I can easily steer it. But if it's like gossip about a company, gossip about something in the news, gossip about a TV personality, gossip about that kind of thing, then it's like, let me go do something that I really value. You're not going to miss me, and I'll come back when the conversation has changed, but I don't feel bad about it. And because I don't, they don't, and we can get back into something else. So that's very helpful. Okay, let's see. Next question. If you're in a social situation, for example, at a party, what would you do if you noticed that you were starting to feel triggered, either a bit socially anxious, feeling not validated, noticing that you're beginning to feel jealous of other people's charisma, to the degree that it was beginning to cloud your ability to bring forth any kind of C other than compassion? What would you do to come back stronger in charisma again? Is there a way to reboot the charisma? So leaving the room, like I just said, and just being like, I'm going to be right back, and go do something that really, when you're, you can bring a lot of care. What do you care about? Can you go tap into something you genuinely care about? So I might go write a text message to Kevin and just be like, hey, I'm at this event. I'm thinking about you. I hope everything is going well. How's your dad? How's the things? How's it? Like, I will actually go do something I genuinely care about. Or I'll go somewhere where it's like, my Voxer there's a million messages in Voxer of people who genuinely want to have a conversation with me. So let me step away from this conversation and let me go into my conviction and my confidence, and let me go talk to people where it actually really matters right now. And then when I go back in fresh with where I feel the most conviction, the most confidence. Now, these things are circumstantial power, but there are times where if you're completely depleted and it doesn't feel like you can bounce back just by contemplating, it might be helpful to just go reboot, leave, go do something that makes you feel caring or confident, or just go outside that bubble and then come back in with a new energy. And it's kind of wild what can happen. It's such a simple thing. But when you're in a state where you're feeling triggered, the bigger coaching that I would give you is it doesn't matter that we feel triggered. And it doesn't actually matter that we're not excellent at this right away. What will make this more valuable for us over time is when we care to develop the qualities. And so just the fact that you would be in a room and the thought would come to you, I am not being charismatic at all right now. I'm completely triggered. I can't find my power anywhere. I can have compassion for myself, but really that's the only thing I can even touch right now. The fact that you have the awareness to talk to yourself like that, your emotional intelligence just took like 100 points. You just had a complete identity shift in your ability to be in a room and have that realization. So sometimes the compound effect of recognizing yourself and being like, whoa, a month ago, this would not be the conversation I was having with myself. It would be a judgment about the person, about the room, and about the party. It would not be an awareness of myself, of my discomfort, and of my triggers. This is a huge breakthrough. I am really actually blown away by this. This is amazing. And that might change then your confidence or your conviction in how important it is that you're studying this stuff. And all of a sudden, your conviction goes up, not necessarily about what everybody's talking about, but in your own self and the breakthrough you just had. It's like we can rebuild ourselves. Everything is in our imagination when we're having moments like that anyway. Nobody said anything. It's all in your head. It's how you feel. So based on the things you're thinking about, you're going to change how you feel. Sometimes just staying in it and being able to recognize that you're noticing things you never did before might start to change the way you feel. Be like, this is a whole new language and I'm speaking it in my head fluently, and it's only been a couple of weeks. This is actually great. Let me sit here a little longer, see if something can change. Let me notice how other people might be feeling. Let me see, who's the most charismatic person in the room and who looks like the most caring person in the room and who might not be seeing their own currency, but they look really caring. Where might I feel most comfortable? You're going to be able to size the room differently. And sometimes that'll help you rebuild all of your energy without even going anywhere. I love that you don't message Kevin about the party or circumstances. Instead, you shift your focus away from it. So this is quite important. I wouldn't go and gossip with Kevin about the party, because then there's no chance my charisma is going to go down. Or there's no chance my charisma is going to go up. It's definite that I'm going to talk about the fact that I don't feel comfortable at the party with the person I feel the most connection with. He's going to validate the fact that I don't feel good at the party. The whole thing is going downhill fast if I do that. But if I go and I completely change it to what I care about, and I go into my care, when I leave that conversation with Kevin, my care has gone up instead of my, my lack of connection, my lack of confidence having been validated where I feel even less. It's the opposite. So it's also noticing what you choose to plug into in moments like that. Validation or raising the sea somewhere. Okay, I love hearing you with my headphones, especially Q&A. That's awesome. Okay, let's see. Next question. And Cassidy says, I found the more uncomfortable I am, sometimes extraordinary things happen at the end of the night. Yes, because discomfort is where the growth is. Like there's no growth in comfort. It's one or the other. It's like it's the lazy boy or it's the gym. It's the long walk or it's the being in bed. Like you can't walk from bed and you can't sit while you're walking. So you've got to choose. And sometimes it's okay to choose comfort as long as you know you're choosing it. A lot of us just automatically go for comfort because we don't want to be uncomfortable and we're frustrated with the results we have without realizing we choose the comfort every time. Okay, how do we know the difference between seeking validation and preferring warmth, friendliness, and connection? Example, a gym I used to be a member of never said hello as the reception. And I just feel like that's not a place I want to be. Is it just not making it mean anything and moving on without attachment? My new place is a lot friendlier. What about a family member or a friend that doesn't greet you with enthusiasm? Does that mean I'm looking for validation or just have another preference? I love this question. So the first thing is, it isn't so much about, am I allowed to want warmth or is that me immediately seeking validation? But the difference is this, I left that gym because I preferred a place with warmth versus I left that gym. Those people are terrible. They don't even greet you at the door. I would never go there and I would never recommend it to anybody. Charismatic people stand for what they have conviction in. They say, I love going to the gym and my favorite thing about it is the community. And so I found a brand new gym. I absolutely love it. The person that greets you there is amazing. The people are there. You don't even talk about the old gym. But that's not what people do. They want validation that they were right to leave the old gym. And anyone would have left the old gym if they would have been treated that way at the door. That's the part. It's like, do what you got to do. Pivot, course correct, move, but don't need someone to say to you, that's a good move. I would have left too. Oh yeah, no, for sure. I hate it when people do that. Why do people do that? They're so rude. Service is not what it used to be. The industry has just fallen. That's what we create instead of, I have a really cute juice place where the people are amazing there too, if you like it. Where's your gym? Oh my gosh, try this juice place. The woman there is absolutely incredible. And I know this amazing other little shop that I love that's near there. And have you ever been to? And next thing you know, you're having a conversation about charismatic employees and amazing stores and amazing customer service. And you're in a totally different conversation. So it's that charisma creates the intention of the conversation. So you making a choice that's better for you is great, but you needing validation for having made that choice, or you needing other people to agree that you did good by leaving, that's where all the validation needs to be done. Now, could you say, let me not just decide that these people are not the best. Let me see what happens. I'm going to give you an example about this. There is a restaurant on Oahu that is one of my favorite restaurants. I love it for brunch. It's the best. And so this year, when we went back, I was very excited, but the woman at the front had a face like a smack backside this morning, and she was not pleased to see us at all. And as a matter of fact, she said she had no room for any of us and she couldn't seat us. We had no reservations. So we gave her a second. Somebody else came, then they found us a table, but she still had a face like a slap backside. She was not having us. She did not like us. There was just like, there was something. She just didn't like us. And so while we were being seated by someone else and she walked back to the front, completely ignoring us, making sure to know she was not approving of the fact that we got a table after all, I went back to the front and I just stood there near her with the cleanest energy I could possibly find. And for those of you who did femme fatale, I portal dropped a bunch right next to her. And and I was even tapping without tapping in my head. I was saying, even though you're having a really bad day, I profoundly love and accept you anyway. I was doing almost like Ho'oponopono. I don't know what I was doing, but I was right next to her and I was cleaning the energy. And so eventually she kind of looks at me and she gives me a side smile. So I look at her and I give her a side smile. And so I keep doing it in my head and I'm just portal dropping until I get the feeling, I like you, you're just having a hard day. And then I'm like, once I have that feeling, I feel like I can walk away. I don't want to go and have my breakfast thinking I don't like her. I don't want that. This is my first day at this place. I've been dreaming of coming to eat here. I need to be, until I am standing next to her and my feeling is, I like you, you're just having a hard day, I'm not going to move. And so I just kept doing it. And I'm just standing there. I'm not talking to her. I'm not trying to make her like me. I'm trying to make me change the feeling I have about her. And when I felt complete, I went to walk away and she went, "Where are you guys from?" And I said, "We're from Montreal, Canada." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a long way." And I said, "Yeah." And then we started talking. And next thing, she walked me over the table and all the people that were with me for breakfast were like, "How did you do that? Like, what happened? What did you say?" And I said, I didn't say anything. Like, I have my ways. But I just knew if I was sitting there knowing that I was insulted and upset because she had treated us a certain way, I would not have enjoyed my breakfast the same way. So it was a for me, for you, for us thing. I let her off the hook and immediately, "Where are you from?" I don't know what she was going through, but the minute I dropped it, she dropped it, and that was it. So I don't think I caused it, but I do think I cleaned it up for her. Sometimes it's shocking how energetics can play a huge game. Like we're off, we're on vacation, we're happy, we're giggly, she's working, maybe she had a bad morning. We're invalidating her bad day with our big smiles. Maybe she felt we were trying to get something from her. And then we did get it. And that was frustrating. But then I tidied it all up. And so it's so wild sometimes how just relying on your own self and knowing like, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm in charge of my mind, my feelings, my thoughts, my imagination, this is all up to me. And eventually it can completely impact somebody else. And so if I would have said that morning, I am not going to be treated like this in Hawaii, on vacation, with my team, like, no, this is extremely rude, I want to speak to a manager. If I would have done that, we would have had a very different morning. And then if we would have gone somewhere else and said, "Thank God we went somewhere else because that restaurant, blah, 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 blah," we wouldn't have had the same morning. Instead, I went and did some Jedi portal dropping. And next thing I knew, she was our best friend. And then for the rest of the 3 months that I've been in Hawaii, every single time we went to that restaurant, she got us a table, whether we had reservations or not. And she went, "Hey, Melanie, it's so good to see you guys. Come sit. Okay, yes, let me get you a table." Blah, blah. Whether they were full or not, whether we had reservations or not, that was it after that. And that would have been a very easy person to say, this person has no charisma and I'm out. Sometimes it's cool to just not decide it's all over. Give yourself a second. Be willing to keep an open heart, an open mind, and open energy. That was incredibly helpful. I'm so happy. Feel this as I canceled my gym membership last week. Vanessa says, "I remember this." Vanessa was there. You're a special one. This is really powerful. I'm confused. So her validation was important for you to have a great experience. Not her validation, but her energy. So, you know, when you're sitting with someone, you're like, what the heck was that about? Like, why be so rude? Why be so, this is a beauty. I could tell the thoughts in my head. Why be so rude? This is one of the most beautiful restaurants. Obviously, this is an expensive place to eat. We're in a great mood. We're happy. Why be this way? Like, it's so, why? You know, that kind of, not, I didn't need her to validate me, but I did not like the poor service I was receiving. It's such a place I was looking forward to go. And I knew I wasn't going to drop it. I was going to feel insulted that she was treating me, my team, like all of us. She just dismissed all of us in the rudest way. It was like, this is not the way service is supposed to be. And then instead of being mad about it, I tidied it up. So validation, just to give you the difference, validation would have been to go to the table and get the whole team to agree that she was rude. That's where I would have gotten validation, not necessarily from her being polite to me, but rather from the team being like, yeah, you're right, she was really out of order and we should leave, and you're right to talk to the manager about it, and no, you were right, this was really not appropriate. Like, that's where I would have sought the validation. So I made sure none of that was needed. And instead we just had a really cute giggle about it, how amazing that was and how everything turned around. Let's see. Oh, thank you. That makes sense. Okay, good. Let's see. Next one. My question, part one, how do you set up a person to thrive for greatness in a first conversation? I'll explain. At 43 minutes 03 in call number 4, Melanie talks about finding out fast if it's possible to establish proper lasting connection with a person during the first meeting. And then Melanie explains, and the way to tell fast is to set someone up to thrive. So here's what I mean by that. If when I show up with you, I have very little charisma, meaning my confidence is low, my conviction is all over the place, I don't have any connection with you, my care is all about me, so I'm not even thinking about you. My compassion right now is nowhere because I'm judging me for my feelings and you for your feelings. And then your response to me as a human being in that moment is kind of subpar. I can't judge you by that. I set you up for discomfort. I set you up in a conversation where you were with a non-charismatic person with low confidence, conviction all over the place, no care available for you whatsoever, no connection available for you whatsoever. Like, if I judge you by your reaction to that energy that I put forward for you, it would be setting you up for failure. So if ever I have a conversation with a person, my first time I meet them, I have a conversation with them, and I know that I'm not in my charisma and the conversation doesn't go well, I don't let myself judge them for that. I'll take responsibility for it. I'll be like, I was not in the zone at all. I always see it like I'm the one that knows better. Like, I'm the one. I've been studying this work forever. I know what I'm doing. I live by this. Some people are incompatible in life, it happens, but was this really a fair shot at knowing if we were incompatible, or did I really give them an incorrect sample of my abilities as a human? And so I try to set people up to win, meaning I'm squeaky clean, my confidence is good, my conviction is good, my connection is available, my currency is through the roof, my care is there, my compassion is there, like I'm there. Like, and then if it doesn't click, it's like you had everything to click with me and you didn't. And I would have to be less of me probably. I'm too shiny, I'm too confident, I'm too this, I'm too that for you to like me, which I'm not willing to do. So we're not compatible and I'm okay with it. So that's what I mean. And if the whole world did that, if people were able to just be squeaky clean across all charisma on every first meeting, and you could be like, this is basically who this person is. Do you like it or do you not? And I'm in my charisma on my first meeting and you're in your charisma on your first meeting, we'd be able to tell right away if there's effortless compatibility. It'd be like, this is you at your best, this is me at my best, and we're not jamming. We're fine, we're good, but this is not a match. Whereas if I give you my best and you give me your worst, well, I've given you my best, so I probably won't give you another shot. But you might going like, oh gosh, I really blew it with that person because I was having a terrible day and I probably should have given them my best. So as much as possible, I'm not judging a person by an interaction where I was not at the top of my charisma quotient. Because if I'm at the top of my charisma quotient and they're triggered or they don't like me, then I have compassion for them because I know there's something in my conviction, in my ability to connect so easily, in my, confidence, in my whatever it is that's making them feel smaller or scared or not comfortable or whatever. So then I have tons of compassion for them and we can still find our way around. But I set people up for success by being in my charisma. Does that make more sense? Let me know if that helps, Alina. Now, part 2 is they're either going to nail it, which is fantastic, or they're going to mess it up, even though they had the opportunity to thrive. That shows you fast. But if you set them up to win and they fail, you can move pretty fast. So I say, set people up for greatness, have them respond to the best case scenario. You'll know who you're dealing with. So how do we set people up for the greatness? What do we say when we meet someone for the first time? What does Melanie mean here? This is such an important point. So I feel like I covered this in my full response, but bottom line is, it's not what you say, it's who you are when you say it. It's not what you do, it's who you are when you do it. It's basically the fact that you're not needing validation, you're not triggered by anything that they're not giving you attention for, that they're not validating your existence for something. You're in your best, you know, your conviction about everything you believe in isn't wobbly just because they believe in something else. You're open for connection, even if you guys have a debate or you believe in different things. You have compassion for them. If there's something weird going on, you care about yourself and about them. You feel your currency is in the room. Like all your C's are in balance. That's how you set people up to win. Like the best chance you've got at a great date is in front of a person who's got all the C's in check. Because then it's like, what is there to not like about this person? If all the C's are in check. If they're super confident but no care, then I might be triggered. Tons of care but no confidence, I might be bored. So if they don't have all the C's, then yes. But if I focus on setting up all my C's when I meet someone, I'm setting them up for success. And if we're not compatible, genuinely, it's because there's something they're still working on. And it's great for me to know that early on. I can have compassion and I can turn the page. So let me know if that was helpful, Alina. I hope that was. How do you navigate the situation when on one hand, my dignity seems challenged and has already begun dropping my income? And on the other hand, oh wait, sorry, there's a beginning here. Okay, day 3's training. You mentioned working with a client, but cringing every time they message. With one client, there's an obvious answer as to what to do. My question is, how do you handle this situation when it's your entire livelihood? I've struggled with being performative for money my entire life. Truthfully, I've never really noticed or cared until this past year, and now I find myself getting resentful or feeling disrespected and flat out pissed. How do you navigate this situation when on one hand, my dignity seems challenged and has already begun dropping my income? And on the other hand, the reality is this work pays my bills, gives me the ability to comfortably grow a new business and invest in personal development. How do you trust God, the universe, when it comes to money? I know I'm worthy in partnership and in my relationships reflect that, but how do you make that switch with money when money is tied to what you very much need in this material world? I know when you started your company, you were in your car, so there was not much to lose. I'm curious what you would do in a situation like this where there is plenty to lose. I'm here for crazy radical change, so feel free to give me the boldest version of your solution. Thanks for your wisdom. Oh, I love this. Okay, so I will tell you, I realized over time that for me, the one that I struggled the most with was my currency. And the thing that I was getting all caught up in is I thought currency and confidence were the same. And so I thought that as long as I was successful, I had currency. Like I'm valuable if I'm good at what I do. But the fact is value goes far beyond what you do. Value is who you are. It's your worth. Like I was born worthy and nothing has changed. I'm deserving of respect. Everyone is. And I was before. I was Melanie Ann Layer, the founder of Alpha Femme. And I am now. And I will be, if I ever drop the ball and somehow lose it all, I'll still be worthy of being treated with respect. And that's something that I think a lot of us get caught up in, like you've got to earn respect and you've got to earn these things based on what you do. And so our currency feels challenged often. And so I would have clients where I felt valuable because I was successful and I could help them in their business, but I did not feel valuable as a person in the sense where I didn't feel like I could have a boundary and say, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I don't like your expectation. I mean, I had clients early on say things to me like, I paid you and I expect you to do your job. If I didn't answer at like 10 p.m. And I was like, oh gosh, is that real? Is that true? Should I? And then eventually I was like, these people talk to me worse than any boss ever has. This can't be right. I'm the boss. There were phases of realizing my currency throughout my career. And one of the ones that really was a big thing for me is when I realized, and not just by dreaming it up, but actually had a past client share with me she was having a moment that basically she and other people that she didn't want to tell me who were using me, that in fact, it was very valuable to be associated with me in the online world, and that using my name got them business. And so they hired me so they could use my name. And that when my name became less valuable because people were upset with me and things happened in 2022, that now it was more valuable to go against me and use my name against me for value, and that they would happily do it. And that was a very hurtful conversation, but it really broke an illusion that I had, which was, I want to be valued for who I am as much as what I do. And I am actually willing to fire anyone who uses me, because that's not in alignment with what I do. If I was just like a marketing agency where my heart and soul didn't make it out on here at all, the promise was like, I will help you 10x your growth by writing your copy for a marketing thing, and you don't ever get to touch my heart or my spirit, and I never open my heart to you, and I don't talk to you about anything. This is a money game, and there's no person included, and you want to use me, fine, you're using my service. But this business isn't like that. This is like, I hold you through some of the hardest things in your life, and I share hard things in my life to give you a comprehension of how I got to knowing this. And it's a human experience, and it's all about compassion, and it's all about humanity. And to be treated with no humanity felt like I can't do that anymore. And so I decided to cut access to one-on-one coaching with me. My private coaching is $500,000 a year. I had a wait list, and I stopped it. I said, no more people can add on to one-on-one coaching unless I've worked with them in all different kinds of capacity. First, I'll open private opportunities, but I am closing the opportunity for people to hire me one-on-one. My mastermind, $175,000 a year with a wait list. And I said, no one else can join this mastermind. Only the people that are in it, I'll continue in close proximity, and I'll figure out what I want to do, because I realized I will never bring in another human being that only uses me for what they think they can get from me. I will not do that ever again. But I didn't quite know what I needed to heal inside of me yet. So I closed it, and I focused on rejudging AFE next, focusing on We Are Alpha Femme. And I totally brought it back to the people. And I said, let's just work with the people. Let's raise a bunch of new leaders. Let's see where people are at. Let's really build solid relationships, and let me rebuild my next private clients internally. Let's have it be the people that are in WAF and in Alpha Femme Experience and in AFE Next that end up becoming the ones that make 10, 20, 30, 40, 50K, 100K, 200K, $1 million a month. Like, let's build a new range of leaders, and let me have been with them from the start, and let me rebuild that connection. And when the time is right, I'll offer bigger opportunities. And that's what I've done. So I literally cut millions of dollars out of my business. Like, my close proximity was about half of what my business was doing at that time. And I shut the whole thing down. And I trusted, and it's been the best decision I ever made. And so you may need to recognize that your currency has been very low, and you've been willing to tolerate people who don't treat you properly. And so at first, and I still had people that I was working with where it was iffy, where they expected things from me. It was not a two-sided thing. It was me making them feel special, not us having a real relationship. You know, always checking, you're not calculating how much I'd done and how much I'd given, and do I feel special, and you're not doing enough for me, and I think I don't feel special enough, so I'm not going to do this, or you're not doing enough for me, so this is all calculated. But I let those relationships ride out with all my love and all my compassion, and I learned, and I learned, and I learned, and I learned, and I took responsibility for all of it. No ill will towards anyone. I realized something in what I'm doing is attracting this, and I just went right back to the drawing board. So if you're attracting people who don't value you, there's a place where you don't value you. And there's a place where you let those people come, because the only people who are comfortable undervaluing people are people who undervalue a person who's comfortable being undervalued, because you feel really awkward when you're trying to undervalue a super powerful, confident person in that one area. It's like, it doesn't work. So the one area I was being undervalued was I was willing to be used if it meant the person could succeed. It was a blind spot. I'm not willing to be used anywhere in my life. But somehow my thing was I was willing to be used if it meant the person could succeed. And now I'm not willing to be used. I think that there's way better ways for us to succeed. And I think we're going to go a lot further if you succeeded by treating people with respect. And I saw the people who used and how they ended up, and they all have had humbling experiences, very public humbling experiences on the back end of that. And so I really believe that all of us will always find our lessons anyway. There's no reason to punish. There's no reason to freak out. There's no reason to judge them or try to get validation about it. It's like, this is what happened. This is how I learned. This is how they will learn. Eventually we'll all get better. Perfect. Turn the page, move on. So where in your currency have you undervalued your quality of life, your enjoyment of your business, the connection with your clients, just to be paid or just so they could get transformation? Take responsibility for that and then choose what you've got to do next. Sometimes it will cost you money. Like it cost me money to make that decision, but it changed my life. The amount of joy, well-being, lightheartedness I feel in my life now, the genuine trust in my community, the openness I feel, the joy I feel for what I do. I could do this all day, every day. I love what I'm doing. There is no resistance anywhere. I haven't felt this free in years, but it took a big, bold move. So contemplate, and I think you might find out what it is that is your next big move. Okay, let's see. I'm going to rewatch Currency. Loving this. How did you catch that blind spot? Well, I first of all realized I didn't want to feel that way anymore, and then I contemplated a bunch. But it also helped when the person told me, you know, like the person literally said, me and other people that I won't tell you who, hired you because if we associated to your name, we got more people buy from us. But now you can't take it personally. If we talk bad about you, people will buy from us because that's the trend right now. So don't take it personally. It's just business. Well, it's not the kind of business I'm interested in. So how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? And where was I creating that? And in the contemplation, I realized where I was creating it was that I've actually felt this a little bit, and I've overlooked it. It was in the, you know, my days off are these two, and those are the two only days you always message me. And then you make me feel a certain way, like just a little, well, I had to figure it out myself because you didn't answer me when you very well know you messaged me on my days off. You set me up to fail, and then I felt bad, and then I overgave. Oh, wait. Oh, I did it here. Oh, I did it here. So you've got to contemplate, because the only person who really knows how you're doing this is you. And sometimes it's hidden. Everywhere else is thriving, so you don't look. But where you don't feel right, there's a blind spot. Just contemplate it. It'll come out. Okay, next question. In call 4, you explained how to set someone up to thrive when you first meet them. Okay, which I understand is you gaining a feel for the type of person they are, to learn if they're someone that you would like to continue to build a relationship with, be it friendship or business. At what point is this initial conversation, do you open up to share more about yourself? I know that when I first meet someone, they begin to ask me heaps of questions without sharing anything about themselves. I start to feel uncomfortable, especially if I intuitively feel something's off, as if the conversation is not an equal exchange. So the first thing is, I'm not testing people. I believe we're both being tested. It's not like, I'm great, I want to see if you're deserving of me. It's more like, let's see if we are an effortless charisma match. Let me be the best of me. Let's see where this goes. So I will absolutely talk about me, but in the ways where I shared earlier in the program, where when I talk, I make sure that there's pauses, that it's easy for them to interject, that if I notice a look on their face where they feel like they're going to say something, I'm like, what? You know, like I'll go for stuff, you know, you want to say something, interrupt me. What is it? You know, like I'll let there be room for discussion, you know, or they'll be saying something and it makes me think of something, and I'll just go like, I'll signal that I would have something to say, like, you know, something where you realize when they say something, or I'll click, this is a really great one for me. I'll do something like this. This is a great cue for me to remember This is what I want to talk about later if there's room for it. And I find that people will continue their sentence, not feel interrupted, and then be like, it looked like you were going to say something. And then I'll remember what it was. And I'll say, yes, because you said this and this. And then all of a sudden there's a discussion, but I be careful not to cut people off, but I'm listening. So you can tell, like, if a person's just questioning you, they're looking for something. But charismatic listening is more like they're enveloped. And one of my favorite ways to listen, and this has helped me so much in my life and in my business and in everywhere, because I used to have a pretty bad memory. I actually would forget everything. I would forget names. I would forget all kinds of things because I was so nervous to forget. And I think it's part of the like repetition, or the way we used to learn at school, where you've got to learn things by heart and then you learn it just enough for the exam and then you forget. Like, that's the kind of memory that I had. I'll remember for this conversation, but if I meet you next week, I will not remember anything of what you told me. And so one of the things I started doing that was so helpful for me is when people talk to me and I imagine it, I imagine what they're telling me. So let's say I'm having a conversation with Shannon and she's telling me about her family and her upbringing, and I'm going to imagine, as she describes her parents, I'm going to imagine them. I'm going to see it in my head like a movie. As she explains a really difficult thing that happened, I'm going to imagine the scene in my head like a movie. When she tells me how she met her partner or something, I'm going to imagine the scene like a movie. And so I've now watched a movie of Shannon's life, whether I have or not. I feel like I have. And so I'll remember all the parts. You listen so much different when you're adding extra senses to what you're listening to. If you can imagine, you know, she'd tell me a story about they were at a restaurant and it was the best food, and I can just imagine my favorite food in the story, and now I can taste it and I can smell it. And she'd tell me about, you know, this beautiful day that they had in the countryside, and I'm thinking of the last time I was at the countryside, and I can see the countryside, I can see it, I can feel it. I'm getting closer to her, I'm getting closer to her expression, her feeling, her life, her care, and I'll remember the story more. And I'm listening with all of my charisma. I'm completely enveloped. So that's so different than, okay, and where did you grow up? Cool. What did your parents do? Nice. Okay. And so how did you meet your partner? Great. Okay. And how's that? It's like, I'm watching this, I'm hearing this, I'm feeling this. And you can tell when a person's listening to you like that, and you will feel so different when you listen like that. And then next time you see the same, I see Shannon a couple of weeks later and I'm like, how's your mom? How's your partner? You know, how are things? And then she's like, well, remember I told you that we'd been on that to that cottage? Yeah, we actually went back. Oh my gosh. Did you go to the restaurant and have the food? And yes, you remember that? Yeah, because it's part of the movie. So I remember things more because I listen that way. Nobody ever feels like I'm questioning them. And I care. So I'll have thoughts that pop in, but they're not so important that I need validation that I'd cut her off. But I might have like a, oh, moment. The connection happens so fast because I genuinely care. I'm not saying, let me test you to see if I care. I'm saying the care is already in the room. All 8 C's are here. Let's see if this is good long-term. Because notice how I brought it up is, how do you know if a relationship is going to be good long-term? Not how do I know if I'm interested in having a relationship with you? I'm already in a relationship with you. We're just going to find out if we're having a long-term one or if we're having a one-night conversation. Like, is this a one-time thing? That one time we met and we had a conversation and that was the last one, or was that our first conversation? It depends on how this one goes, but I'm already in a relationship with you if we're talking. It's not like, let's see how this conversation goes and we'll see if there'll be a relationship. This is why, and I brought this up before too in the dating world, like when I was dating, I would go on every date thinking this could be my last first date. This could be the one. I could be the one, because I will either be on this date the one or the one who got away. That's what's going to happen. So let me just show up on this date. Like, this could be the first date with my husband. Who am I on this date? I listened with all of my heart. I showed up with all the C's in the room. And if it wasn't the right one, well, they missed me a lot more than I missed them because I brought it. So I was either the one or the one who got away. And it was such a great way to date because I was like, I'm not going to wait until I figure out whether you're worthy. I'm going to go all in. And if it's right, it's right. And if it's not, it's not. And I'm going to be okay either way. And it changed who I ended up with. I did that in business with clients. It's like I've opened up my ability to love first and then be disappointed if I need to, rather than try not to set myself up for disappointment and decide when I bring my charisma in, which would have cost me so many opportunities, so much money, and probably that relationship with Kevin. If I would have been testing him, it never would have worked. He's not a match for that. So it's so cool to see it this way. I'm not testing you. We're in the pressure cooker. Let's see if we work out. Not let's see if you're good enough for me or if I like you. I'm not testing you. We're being tested. That's so different. So I hope that was helpful. I've been struggling with this. I returned back from maternity leave to my job over a decade, and they took tens of thousands from my salary. It shook my value, and I found the prior GMs were paid more than me. This is also helpful, and I'm working on my currency. The big bold mood is coming as an entrepreneur mentor. Thank you. This is huge. Do you always position yourself as the one asking questions, and do you respond if someone is curious about you and asking questions? I am all in. Like, you ask me a question, I will give you the answer. And this is the other way that charismatic people are magnetic, is I won't wonder whether you care about me. I won't do the thing of like, well, let me just answer real quick because they probably don't actually care. I'm going to tell you the story like you're my best friend. It's Saturday night and we're on the couch with a glass of rosé and you really want to know. I'm going to tell you the details. I'm going to laugh with you. I'm going to tell you the vulnerable parts. Like, I'm going to tell you the story like you cared to listen. That's where the connection also happens. I'm not going to test to see if you really care, that maybe you asked me the question, but you didn't really want to. I'm going to be like, I trust you. You want to know the story? Oh my gosh, it's such a good story. People ask me sometimes, oh, so how did you and your partner meet? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's such a good story. And I tell them the whole story and they're just like, but then when I ask them, how did you meet your partner? They actually tell me the whole story. Because if they ask me, how did you meet Kevin? I say, oh, it's a long story. We were working for the same company and we kind of connected through there. It was a, hit or miss at first, but we eventually clicked and we've been together for a long time now. Yeah, we really love each other. How did you meet your partner? I'm probably going to get, yeah, same kind of thing. Met at the office. You know how it is. Oh, I feel so connected to you. I'll remember this forever. This exchange was riveting. Like that's not what's going to happen. Both of us will be so forgettable. But if I go in and I say the things, they'll tell me their real love story and I'll get to watch a movie of them and I'll get to see if I click it, if I feel, and then we're in the charisma zone. That's how it ends up going. That was my question. I work for someone at this point, but I get what you're saying. Thank you so much. Okay. I can't even imagine doing something like that or enduring that, but see, you might have really a lot of currency in that one area and then somewhere something else is your blind spot. That's why curiosity is so cool. And that's why I love having discussions like these, because you might be like, whoa, Melanie would have had a blind spot there and I wouldn't even have had a blind spot there. Equal power, but different. I would have probably spotted that. I've learned enough. I know I wouldn't have made that mistake. I could have helped Melanie. Equal power, but different. It's good to have these conversations. You answered a question I had about what to do when people don't acknowledge your qualities and skills. Good. I feel tears in my eyes. This is so good. Okay, Melanie, you entered my dreamscape last night and now I'm here live. I just walked away from a glorious romance, the first man I've loved and I've been in a relationship with for 5 years on my birthday last Saturday. He had tossed too many glasses of white wine and became really rude and abrasive. I walked away from the relationship with zero tolerance for mistreatment. I've been having an identity crisis this week. In the aftermath, I'm wondering where the line of empathy exists. The line of self-empathy, the line of empathy for him. He's horrified. He's attempted to repair, but the experience catapulted me into another dimension altogether. Should I offer charismatic listening? Just unsure to be most empathetic and charismatic that I can be. Here's my real opinion on this. If you've been with this person for years and they have a drinking problem and this was the peak of it, and then you walked away, that's one storyline. If you've been with this person for years and they had one night where they drank too much and they said things that are unforgivable, I would listen. Because I don't believe that we should be defined by our one worst moment. Unless it's like, there was literal like abuse and it was over the top. But if it was just like he was very rude and abrasive and unpleasant, and that's not usually who he is, and this is one time, I would listen. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to say, okay, let's go again, but giving them the compassion to listen. And there's a difference between breaking up with someone and saying, I will never be treated this way. You are, you were so over the top. I'm never going to forgive you for this. And I hope in the future you can learn and I'm done with you, versus saying, I'm actually really heartbroken about this because I love you so much. And I saw us for the long run together. Like I really do love you, except when I tap into myself and I imagine having a relationship with you after that night, I can't. Something broke. I don't feel the same way about you. I don't feel the same way about us. And I don't see a way back. And so thank you for sharing your side of the story. And I wish it would have changed more for me. It doesn't. I still don't feel like we can repair this. And I wish you well. I'm not going to hate you forever, but I know I can't trust you again. Like, that's more powerful than no, I won't listen and you should know better and blah, blah, blah. Like, sometimes it's a no because even giving them access to you is dangerous, because there's manipulation and they're trying to override your own way to get their way. Then you say, I think it's best for me that we end it here. But if it's a genuine relationship with someone that you've cared for a long time and you trust yourself to make the correct decision, sit, listen, and then make your decision. I think sometimes just listening can take us a long way. Okay, the piece you shared about confusing care for currency really hit. I have experienced this piece of people expressing their care and having an expectation around receiving care from me by lessening my value through currency. And I've participated in the dynamic by devaluing myself. I've grown leaps and bounds here in the process that and in the process have had people disappear from my life. Can you share more about your journey, rearranging yourself and standing more clearly in your currency and value, whether or not you had the same thing happen around people leaving your life? So this is a really great add-on to the story I was telling you before, and I think it really does kind of paint a full picture. So how I think this ended up being my blind spot is that those people still cared about, they would still message me, be like, hi, how are you? They would share with me celebrations. They would even post things like, Melanie Ann Layer is the greatest person ever. I went from making $10,000 a month to $100,000 a month. She completely changed my life. I just had a conversation with my husband that was completely life-changing, and now we're in a great spot. Like, they would do all of the caring things. Happy birthday, flowers on my birthday, all the things. But the value of, like, I truly value you as a person, and I would never go beyond your limits, or I would not do something that could harm you or your brand to do something that's good for me, or I value your trust. I value our connection. I value your expertise. That wasn't there. And so I got blinded by the care, where then I try to message you on your day off. I care about you. You're the first person that came to mind, but I don't value your time off. I don't value that this is your brother's wedding, or this is your birthday, or this is Christmas, but I care about you and I love you and Merry Christmas, but also, can you please talk to me because I'm going through this really hard thing. So I didn't notice it because the care masked the lack of value. And I think that happens for a lot of us. People will do something like they'll give you employee of the month. They'll say you're the greatest, of all times. But then when you have, your child's birthday party and you ask to change your shifts, they're like, no, you can't change your shift. It's like, but it's my child's birthday. I don't value your family life and I don't value your child's birthday, but you're the employee of the month. You get this, noticing where I'm getting care. I feel cared for, but I feel devalued. Sometimes that's where we feel the most manipulated, because we feel guilty for how we feel. Like, I do feel that you care about me. I just don't feel like you value me. Those are actually different things. I felt this in my life. It's a confusing feeling. So when you tell a person, I don't feel valued, they'll often, especially among women, go to tell you how they care about you. They'll say, of course I value you because look, I've done this and this and this. No, I know that you care about me. I just don't know if you value this opportunity, this gift, this thing that I did, the person that I am, the fact that I'm there, the fact that I listen, the fact that I do all, like, I don't think you value this, but I do think you care about me. A lot of times people get very offended by that if it's true. Because they can't, they'll just freak out. If they do value you, they'll be like, I am heartbroken that you would even feel that. And what would you need in order to be valued? Because I care about you and I value you. And if I've been missing the mark, I really want to be there. I really want to do better. If they don't value you, then they will value more their appearance, what it looks like, and they'll get mad at you for feeling devalued. So it's like the conversation is touchy because some people don't really know the difference between valuing something and caring about something. They care about having something, but once they have it, they don't value it. They care about having a husband or a wife, but then once they're married, they don't value their partner, not their opinion, not their well-being, not their joy, not their emotions, not nothing. They care about them. They'd be sad if they were gone. They don't want to live without them. But when's the last time they asked them what their day was like? Probably can't even remember. There's a difference between how you value a person. Like you being in my life changes my life, rather than like, I care about you. Are you okay? Do you need something? Like there's different energetics at play. So when you bring forward that you don't feel valued and a person freaks out, usually it's because they care about you and they feel like it's never enough. No matter how much they care, it's never enough, instead of being open that you don't feel valued. And it's usually an emotional intelligence thing. And sometimes you can make it back from that. There'll be a split, there'll be space, and you can come back from it, because sometimes people realize what they value when it's gone. You don't realize what you cared about when it's gone, because you don't let it go if you care about it. But you realize what you valued when it's gone, because then you don't have it. And you realize how much value it held. You recognize the value once it's gone. So sometimes it's like letting people have space from you. Then they realize, whoa, that was really valuable. And they come back. Okay, let's see. This is one of my biggest aha from this program. That is amazing. Okay, the kinds of compliments that you gave as examples feel easy to receive. When people go on and on saying things like, you changed my life. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be where I am. You're the reason that I'm who I am. Those are things I feel uncomfortable with, because it feels like separation and being put on a pedestal, and the person actually taking away from what they did for themselves. I feel deeply moved and honored that I get to contribute to others, and maybe it's my inability to receive. I'm willing to being open to that. It just feels uncomfortable sometimes with certain energetics present. I imagine you've mastered responding to these moments. How do you handle this? I love this question. So for those of you who are in AFE Next, you've often seen me handle this. When people say like, you changed my life, I'll often say we. They say because of you, I say because of us. I know I'm a part of it. I'm not devaluing my worth. I know that I played a big part in this, but you played a much bigger part in changing your life than I did. But did I help? Was I there? Yes. And I love that, but you also chose me. So I'll say things like, I feel so honored and I'm so grateful that you chose me and that we did this together, but this is us. I love us and I'm grateful and we did this, it's us. I bring it just back to the us frequency, because it really is. I wouldn't want to say I didn't have anything to do with it, it was all you, because that's not necessarily true. There was something in the relationship or in the teachings that made a change. But me taking it all doesn't serve the person at all. Then it means if I go, they go back to who they were. That doesn't work. So it's like, we got here together and I'm grateful you chose me. It was an honor that you chose me, that we got to walk this path. We did this. Is because of us. That's my favorite answer, because that's what feels the most true for me. I work with a man that not only gaslights and manipulation, but has gone as far as putting me on his car, #cancel KM, which the boss approved because I don't think he believed the guy was gonna really do it. I've forgiven this person, let things go and prayed that they would change. I'm at the point of how do I truly not let them exist when they're all around me at work? It's also multi-layered. I have developed so much as a result of this crazy dynamic that I reflected childhood wounds. It's been massive and it's allowed me to expand my depth and my light. Look, there is so much going on in that person's world right now that it's hard to comprehend. Like, we would not be able to understand how a grown man thinks that that is proper behavior just by first glance. We would have to know what he's been through, who cut him out, where has he been bullied, where does this somehow feel like some sort of big revenge for something he struggled with his whole life? Where does this feel like all of a sudden he's free, he's breaking free from not being able to talk? There's a whole story that he's justifying this behavior with, I guarantee it. And that's hard because it doesn't mean that he's right, it just means that he feels validated in his behavior. But I've had people say the wildest things about me, and all I can think about is there's at that point in time where they're choosing to go on a war against a person they don't even know, there is something in them that feels better focusing their life about me and focusing their life about themselves. And that says a lot already. It's like they're not even willing to go where the real pain is. I'm willing to go where the real pain is. I face my stuff, so I have compassion for people who can't. This has been the hardest thing. Like, I call these Jesus walks moments with my clients when I have private coaching calls with clients and they bring me these like absurd life events where all I want to do is tell them this is preposterous and that person is awful, but I want to be there for them in this coaching moment. And it's like, it's a Jesus walks moment. Like, can you have that level of compassion for a person who is literally so lost? This is not them at their best. This is not them in their glory. This is not them in the image of God and in their mother's eye. Like, this is them in a dark, lost place. So do we judge them by their worst moment, or do we just let the whole thing go? And can you live a happier life when you put it down? Yes. So let's put it down. Let's figure out how to put it down. But and I will say, like, I have had people come into my world because other people have said terrible things. I've had people say that I hypnotize people with my eyes. Like, I'm actually manipulating you with my eyes right now. I'm looking deep into your soul so that you believe the things that I'm telling you. And then then people are like, what? I want to see her do it. And then they come and they watch me and they're like, well, I didn't feel manipulated, but I did quite like her. So I ended up buying her program. Like, the amount of times that happened, that the people will find me by someone else saying, oh, this person actually doesn't care about anybody. The whole thing's a big scam. All she cares about is money. You'll see when you find her. Then people are like, I want to go see this. And they see, they're like, I didn't get that. As a matter of fact, I bought her Femme Fatale program that has nothing to do with that. And I ended up in AFE, and actually I've been in AFE for 3 years. So I'm really grateful for the person that didn't like her, because it led me to her. Can you trust that it's going to lead them to you somehow? One of the women in my AFE Next found me because last year or early this year, she was on a cruise and 2 people were talking badly about me so much on the cruise that it made her curious about who I was. So she found me and she was like, I don't know what these people are talking about. This girl's great. And then she hired me. She did AFE Next and The Matrix, which is like a $33,000 mastermind. So, like, let them not like you. Let the ones that don't like you not like you. It doesn't mean anything. And the way I see it, they will act like a magnet. And all the people that have similar beliefs that don't like you will all stay over there talking about the fact that they don't like you instead of ending up on your timeline. And the people who are curious about you might come see you and find out they love you. So it's, say my name, say my name. It doesn't really matter. Like, whether the people who come don't like me or the people who come do, because just say it and then I'll find my people and we're going to be fine. So even when people talk badly about you, it's like, as long as they're saying your name, you're right. The right people will come and they'll repel the people who weren't meant for you anyway. Trust, 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 trust. And don't ever put your charisma down out of fear because someone else doesn't like your sparkle. You're going to be okay. Okay, let's see this. This masterclass is opening up so much for me around the nuances of seeking validation and the subtle ways that I still do, and that it's really amplifying how much I see that when people are talking, I feel how much they're seeking validation from others, even just to validate themselves through feeling smart or important. What are the internal conversations that you have with yourself to cultivate deeper spaces of compassion versus frustration? So the fact is, I don't think it's wrong or bad that people seek validation. I just think it's limiting. It's like, if I need your validation in order to get to the next level, I'm going to wait. I'm going to look for you. I'm going to look for the person who tells me you're good. I agree. And one person usually isn't enough. I'll need a few people, because eventually you get desensitized to one person validating you. One isn't enough. You need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 100. And then eventually it's not even about people validating you. It's about the ratio of who's invalidating you. So that means you have 100 people that say, yes, I agree with you. And one person says, I don't. And all you can focus on is the one who doesn't. Even if there's 100 that say they like you, then you've got to work on the ratio. You need 200 to say they like you and one that say they don't, in order for it to hurt less. It's just limiting. When you don't need the validation, the sky isn't even the limit. But I don't get frustrated with people who need validation. And if I really felt like someone was entirely stuck unless I gave them validation, I wouldn't even be opposed to giving it to them. And there are moments where I choose to validate people because it's such a silly thing. Like when I'm in a traffic jam with Kevin and someone cuts him off and he gets really mad, I super validate that. He'll be like, oh my God, are you crazy? The person almost cut us off. And I'm like, what a psychopath. And he loves it. He starts laughing. He's like, you're the best. I validate your anger, because what does it matter? That person cut you off and you got mad in the past. Don't say that. You don't know. Maybe they're rushing to the clinic for something. Maybe the blah, blah, blah. And then just feel super validated in his anger. And next thing, we're uncomfortable because I made this made up scenario where he was wrong. And, it's like, why not just side with him over something we don't know nothing about? And when you make it funny and you make it light, sometimes it's just helpful. Your mom tells you a story about the woman at the office that's so rude to her, and you want to put your life coach hat on and be like, but mom, did you ever consider? And she's just like, stop siding with the enemy. Whereas you could just as easily go, ugh, what a pain in the butt. You could so easily go like, I'm casting a spell that she'll her feet will be ticklish all night tonight and she'll wonder why, and it'll be because of us. Like, let's cast a spell on her. We'll have tickly feet all night. Like, say something dumb that's so stupid that makes somebody laugh and just be like, you're right, it's so stupid. Like, what? I bet she burns her steak tonight. I bet it tastes awful. I'll say something that's validating, but that's also humorous, and it changes the subject. Sometimes validating people just feels good. Like, thank you for seeing me. Thank you for getting that. But it's when it's big things that sometimes it's like, you don't need my validation here. And if I give it to you and somebody else doesn't, or if I'm not here to give it to you, you're going to hold yourself back. So if I have a client, for example, that I can tell wants my validation, I'll be very careful. And they're like, look, I just feel like maybe nobody's buying right now, and that maybe it's the economy. And I know if I say you're right, it's the economy and that's why nobody's buying, they'll be like, okay, so it's normal. But the fact is, people are buying, and there's like millions of dollars a month coming into my business. And so I can't say that. And so I'll say, look, although it's possible that this can be a thing for some people, I really don't want to go there with you. Let's go with something else instead. Let's go look somewhere else. Let's take full responsibility instead. Let's go look for something else. And sometimes it does frustrate them in the moment, but eventually they come back and they're like, you're right. I would actually much rather it be something I can control than something I can't. And thank you for standing for that. So you've got to sometimes check, like, how does validating a person just get you off the hook for being uncomfortable? Whereas where does validating a person actually just feel like love and connection sometimes? And where does validating people sometimes make you feel powerful and make them feel like without your validation and or approval, they wouldn't do something? There's different kinds of validation. That's why contemplation of these topics is so wonderful, because it really makes you see what kind of people are around you and what they need. Okay, let me see. When someone sees all I have accomplished, for example, yesterday, and they're like, I want to be like you. I always say, I'm always going to show possibilities, but I don't want to reject them because I've done incredible things. I also don't want the feeling of separation it brings. How do you navigate this? I have people say, one day I'll be the next Melanie Ann Layer. And they tell me that. And I'm like, you're going to do better than that. You're going to be the only Wendy Shepherd. Like, you're not going to be the next Melanie Ann Layer. Why we need a next one? What's going to happen to me? Like, we don't need it. Why do I need a successor? What happens? Like, you get to be the first you, and it usually
Ready?
makes people laugh.
Let's go.
Oh, let's go. Where are we going? Alpha Fem team, I think we have a microphone that's unmuted. So basically what we're looking for is when someone looks at what you're doing, they're like, one day I want to do what you're doing. You just say, what I say is, that's really exciting. And I'm sure there's so many different things that you'll want to do, and I wish them all for you. It's like people say things sometimes without thinking. So it's also not about invalidating what they just said. Like, you shouldn't say that. You don't need the blah, blah, blah. It's like, they don't need that either. But can you widen their thoughts and just be like, that's really exciting. And I'm sure there's way more that you'll end up doing, and I'm excited for you. I think that's helpful. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Mama T says facts. I was told to shut up while coaching in traffic last time. I'll definitely call him an a-hole next time. That's hilarious. But you don't say it like, this is what I found when I validate a person. I do it with humor only. Like, I won't be like, oh my God, I won't be on the same frequency as they are, because I don't want to validate their anger. I just want to validate the situation. That person was a jerk, but not like, yeah, let's go get them. Like, I don't want to create an energy where they're more angry. I want to create an energy that diffuses the anger. And sometimes validation can do that if it's done properly. Okay, let's see. I am loving who I'm becoming with every masterpiece that you create for us. In day 4 and 5, I found answers to many lingering questions that I've been experiencing with my family. They don't listen. They overstep into the conversation. They don't have patience. They talk over each other all the time. This has been the norm. Through charisma, I have some training to show up in their world differently this time. My question, I'm often verbally attacked by my sister, sister-in-law, and mother-in-law for not having children and for being different in my thinking. It always comes in the disguise of having concern for me. How do I handle such incidents gracefully without getting hurt? So this is all about, what is your motive? What is your intent? So if I know for a fact I don't want to have kids, and I know I have conviction in that, I don't need to prove that I have conviction in that. I just do. So if I go to a dinner where people are like, so are you going to have kids? I'm like, no, I'm still certain that that's not what I want. And they say, this was your one job on earth. This is what you're supposed to do. If you don't do this, you're this. If you don't do this, you're this. I would just listen. I would say, that's a good point. I can see how, if that's what you believe about it, you'd be really scared for me for not having any. That makes a lot of sense why you really hope I would have some. I can totally see how that actually makes a lot of sense when you say it that way. And I still wouldn't feel the need to say, doesn't change my conviction, because then I'd just reopen the machine and I'd just be like, thank you for sharing all that with me. I can really tell you care about me. I'm really grateful you took the time. They feel validated. They've said everything they need to say. You have a very educated other side. Nothing you didn't already know if you had conviction. And then you move on. And you can say, like, thank you for this. I really appreciate you taking the time and really sharing with me your thoughts, your concerns, your opinions. I will take all of this into consideration. Can we change the subject? Is there anything else you'd like me to know? Do you feel good? Can we change the subject? You might be able to change the subject then. It's as long as you need them to know that they haven't changed your mind. It's as long as you need them to know why you don't want to do it, why you invalidate every answer that they have, that there's a conflict. Because you don't need their approval that you're not doing this. And they don't need to know that you don't agree, because you just don't. Your conviction hasn't changed. They talked for a while. They gave you everything they had to give you. Thank you for that. You stayed curious, you stayed open, like, wow, where is this passion coming from them? You got it. You see their point of view, hasn't changed anything. But thank you. And now what? It is hard. Those are some of those Jesus walks moments. But people only verbally attack when they feel like they're not being heard, and they don't have the wherewithal to understand that it doesn't matter. You don't need to be heard by everybody. Not everybody needs to agree with you, but when people don't know that, it literally feels like their life is threatened unless they can get their point across. Have compassion. These people are struggling a lot more than you are. You've already made a decision. They're having an existential crisis around your decision. Have compassion, eat your potatoes, take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. My mom does that around me trying to go to church or needing to go to church. Like, people will do this. Anything you do that's invalidating their belief. So let them have their moment. Let them explain to you. And you can be curious, like, can you tell me why you're so worried about me? Or like, what's your real belief? Try to explain to me what it is that when I don't believe in this, it really hurts you or it really upsets you. Like, I can tell you're worried or you're afraid for me. Like, what's going on? And then they tell you and you're like, okay, that makes sense. I get it. All right. Well, let me contemplate this. Thank you so much. It doesn't always have to be a war. Like, you can be a wise fox and say, take all the space and tell me everything. I don't need to fight with you. And it may not even change my conviction, or it might, who knows? If I'm worried about my conviction being wobbly, I'm not all that convinced. If I have that much conviction, I could sit in a 12-hour conversation with someone swearing the opposite, and I'd just listen and say, that's a really good perspective. I value your the way you see things. I can see how if I saw it that way, I'd also believe what you believe. And my conviction hasn't even been touched. But it's when we're afraid sometimes that it might sway our conviction, or that our listening means that we validate them, that we shut it down. Doesn't mean that. When you have charisma that comes off a little sensual, how do you shift this into a beautiful feeling instead of feeling like I'm doing something wrong? I've had this type of sensual charisma with me ever since I can remember. I know it's a gift, but sometimes I feel guilty that I have it. And when I shut it off completely, there's a part of my light that goes out so no one can see me, including myself. So the thing with sensual charisma is that there is the energy that you put out and there's the intent and the follow through. And so what you might feel bad about is that someone might get the wrong idea about something. But if you are clear that you're not being sensual for validation and that you would not do anything with whatever energetics are created by your sensuality, there's really nothing to feel guilty about. What you want to check, and this sometimes happens with people that have sensual charisma, is they feel validated by the feeling it gives them when someone else is attracted to them. So you might just want to look at, do I get validated by the attraction? If I get validated for the attraction, I actually feel guilty for the seeking of the attraction that gives me validation, not for my charisma. Because if I feel like I'm speaking to you and your husband and I have this sensual charisma, it would never go anywhere, and I definitely don't need validation for it. I just know it's present. It's just a part of who I am. I don't feel guilt. But if I know I actually feel validated when I can tell your husband's kind of attracted to me, I'm going to feel guilty the whole dinner because of my need for validation, not because of my effortless sensuality. So you just want to check and say, is there something there where I've actually gotten validation from this? That might be what needs to be tidied up. But if I have good intentions and I don't need validation, it's like Brad Pitt feeling guilty for being Brad Pitt. Like, you're born with what you're born with. You got to just love yourself and know you're a good person and keep going, you know. But if you get validation from it and you play it up, then, or if it feels like you kind of hope it's working, or that's maybe what you feel guilty about, and you can definitely tidy that up. And it's sometimes that's something that happens in adolescence and early womanhood. And we think it's a permanent part of us, but it can totally be tidied up later on. And a lot of women do this. They cut off their sensuality in their 30s, 40s, 50s, because most of their friends are now married. Most of the people they're around are in relationships. So they cut the sensuality off in case, because when they were young and most of the people around them were single, they did do the validation thing, and then they didn't know they could have one without the other. So the grown-up version of that is very different. A mature sensuality can bring a whole room together. But if you do it for validation, it can tear a room apart. It's all about your needs. So just pay attention to that. Okay, let's see. In the beginning of your coaching, did you do more authority marketing and then transition to visionary marketing, as you talked about on the video, and develop the concept of in this lifetime once you had an audience? Or did you do visionary marketing from the start? The deeper question here is, will visionary marketing work for newish brands, or do you establish yourself with authority and then segue into visionary once you have the audience? Like, how does visionary attract people? I think I just answered my last thought, where visionary attracts people for that reason, because nothing feels like it's being sold and it's feeling good to buy. So here's my real truth. When I first started, I didn't even know what actual marketing was. So I had no real strategy because I had no awareness. So I just tried a bunch of stuff. From the moment I was aware of what I was actually doing, I chose visionary marketing. Because when I actually saw what authority marketing was, I recognized how I felt around authority marketing. I realized I would never buy from authority marketing. And what I've always thought and what I've always felt, and this is always open for interpretation, all of us are different, which is why authority marketing does work for some people. But what I always felt was that my ideal client was very much like me. So if I wanted to attract a client that was very much like me, it would be helpful for me to ask myself, what makes me buy? And I realized that what makes me buy are really powerful people who also expect that I'm powerful. Really eloquent, strong, powerful, visionary kinds of people who include me in their vision, who see that we go together, who don't assume that I don't know, who don't point out my flaws and my fears and my lack and my this and try to sell me a solution, but rather that share with me their vision and expect that if I want to be a part of that, that I'll join, that I'll invite myself. And so that's why from the moment there was a choice, that's the choice that I made. But I don't think there's anything wrong. And even in that live stream that I did on Instagram about visionary marketing versus authority marketing, I said multiple times, there's nothing wrong with authority marketing. If you genuinely feel like the authority in your field and you feel like people don't know how to do this and that's the angle you want to take, if you have bought from authority marketing, if you're drawn to people that make you feel like, you know, they're the expert and I don't know, it might actually work for you. It's just that the way I do it is shoulder to shoulder, together we rise. And I feel like people stay with me longer with visionary marketing than authority marketing, because as soon as you feel like you're shoulder to shoulder with the authority, you leave. You start shoulder to shoulder with visionary. So I walk with my clients for a very long time. They don't just get what they need and go unless they hired me because they saw me as the authority, and then that's their own decision-making process. But people who join the visionary conversation with me tend to walk very far because we've got big goals and we go at them together, and I'm helping you. And the whole thing is a together we rise kind of thing. So I hope that is helpful in my answer. Okay, I think this will be our last one. I would love to expand my currency quotient. And I've been realizing how my currency has been clouded by religion. You know the story, if you accept Jesus Christ into your heart and give your life over to God, then you and your life are valuable. And if you don't, then you're living a life of sin. And basically nothing you do can ever be considered valuable forevermore. I chose not to join my family in this way, and my life has taken a different path, but still it weighs very heavy on my soul. Can you speak to finding our currency when we are outside of religion, but still colored by the context of this religious conundrum? So this is a big debate. And I might even say, I want to contemplate this properly and do it in the next Q&A, because I want to give you a really solid answer. And I feel like I have an angle, but I would like to contemplate that for you because of this specific of the question. But I definitely have an answer. I would just want to contemplate it a little more. So Lisa, if we can, we're going to add an extra Q&A on Monday, and that will be my first question that I answer. So Alpha Femme team, do you want to give me one other one? Okay. Can you do a masterclass on contemplation? Okay. My question is, how can we improve one skill of asking great questions? P.S. Contemplation time is an amazing addition to my life. I even added a candle as you suggested, and I love the vibe. Thank you. This is a perfect question, I think, to end on. So asking great questions comes from the answer. This is my opinion again, but how I care about asking questions is that the answer pushes me forward instead of the answer completes me. So as I was being silly before singing This Is the Song That Never Ends, when I see that this is a conundrum of life, a question that never ends, my question leads to an answer that leads to another question. Not my question leads to an answer that makes me good enough. And so I feel like a lot of the questions when they're asked for like, if you can answer this for me, my life will be fixed, tend to be very basic questions, because if life were that simple, you wouldn't need MasterCard. You know, if life were that simple, you wouldn't need that. You wouldn't even have that question. It's just like, and so the question's never really answered. So people feel unfulfilled with the answer to these questions. So contemplation is like, what are your thoughts on this? It's more like debates. It's deep philosophy almost. Like the answer gives me more to ponder. The answer sends me in a different direction. The answer will lead me to another question. Because I think ultimately we just keep asking better questions because the quality of our questions shapes our life. What I'm wondering, what I think about and how I think about it is actually most of who I am. You know, me asking, what the heck is wrong with you versus me asking, gosh, I wonder what she's going through today. Those are two very different questions and they change who I am. Me saying, why does this never work for me? And me saying, what's missing right now are two different questions and they change who I am. Me saying, maybe I wasn't cut out for this. And me saying, you know, I wonder what part of me still wants to give up or what part of me isn't certain, where I still sometimes feel I want to pull the plug on this when things aren't going my way. Like, I wonder why I do that. Two different questions completely change who I am. And so when you see good questions actually lead to other good questions, you stop trying to fix yourself by asking questions and you actually start to open yourself up, like having discussions. If you realize what this really is, like we are having a discussion about things that I wish the whole world was having discussions about. If we could change the world, that this is the discussions people would be having at the restaurant, the table, after a day at school, together with their partners, like I think there would be far less divorce. I think there would be so much less gossip. I think there would be a lot less bullying. I think there would be a lot more ideas, a lot more creativity, a lot more collaboration. Like it would change the dynamics of the earth if it was a taught art to contemplate and to discuss and to debate. People don't want to have a conversation with someone with a different opinion because they're afraid they're going to fight. Instead of, can I ask you a question that's totally opposite to what you believe in, just so I can understand your side? People get offended. Why would you ask me a question that's clearly the opposite of what I believe in? You must not care about me or my work. No, like, can we? But then how do you ask the question? Are you asking it to trip the person up to look like you won to get validation? Or are you genuinely wanting to bring contemplation and debate? It's like stretching the mind, opening the spirit, opening what we think about, changing the limited perspective, the lens that we look at life through, having different questions, higher vibrational questions in your body and your mind. It changes who you are to think different questions. So I wouldn't say there's anything like a good and a bad question, but I think extraordinary questions lead to more extraordinary questions, whereas good questions lead to answers that sometimes leave us fulfilled or unfulfilled. And honestly, I don't know which one is worse. I think that if I ask someone a question and they give me an answer that doesn't give me another question, I feel like I've hit a dead end more than anything else. So either I want to close a loop and say, okay, I can stop wasting my energy here, and that question brought me into a different direction. Or I want to say, gosh, I love that answer, and that creates another question for me. And you'll see, for those of you who are in AFE Next with me, this often happens. Someone comes in with their question, and then I give them an answer, and they say, and that leads me to another question. And then I answer, and they say, and then I have another question. And then I answer that one, and they say, that leads me to another question. And I let them do that because that's what the actual mentorship is supposed to do. It's not supposed to be, so Melanie, how do I do this? And then I tell them, they go, okay. That's actually not it. It's that you have a question that leads to another question and leads to another question until your mind says, stop with the questions, let's contemplate all this. And then you get a feeling of like, okay, let me sit with this. Okay, let me contemplate this. Okay, let me see what I can do with this. And that's the goal of stretching our ability to ask extraordinary questions. So we're going to add another Q&A Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Actually, we'll do 9 a.m. That way, if it's longer, I can go 2 hours. We'll do 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, EDT. And we'll put it in the schedule, and we'll email you the time as well, so you can put it in your calendar, or you can catch the replay. Now, I do want to tell you, I've been receiving quite a few questions about, like, what if I'm in love with We Are Alpha Femme? Like, what do we do next? Are you going to sell something? Are you going to do a shop with me? I'm not going to do a shop with me on the end of Charisma. We just did one in identity work, and I think that one is very good. We can definitely send you that one. But here's what I really think is amazing about We Are Alpha Femme. This is what I would really be considering if I was in We Are Alpha Femme right now. When you purchase a year of We Are Alpha Femme in full upfront, it costs $2,222. You get a $1,111 credit that you can spend on any other program right away. And you also get access to a bonus program, either identity work, currency, which if you don't have, I so recommend. Oh my God, you can buy it on its own for $1,888, but it is, if you can get it by purchasing a year of WAFs, like, do it. And or unconventional, which is also amazing. So you can pick one of those three as a bonus. So on top of getting a program as a bonus, you also get $1,111 that you can purchase on something else. And then you get a year with me, and We Are Alpha Femme with all of the master classes. This is the greatest thing you can do, in my opinion. You buy a year of We Are Alpha Femme. That is the best thing you can do right now. There are new things that are coming. So we have Mid-Year Manifesto that's coming, and that one is really a really great program. And I think on the back end of identity work and on the back end of Charisma, actually deciding how you want to plan the rest of your year and hearing the way I lead my year and how I get so much done and how I lead myself. Like, these are my getting your life together programs. Resolution Revolution in January and Mid-Year Manifesto in the summer. They're so good, and they just get you in the zone. So one of those two would actually be quite spectacular as well. If you could do Mid-Year Manifesto, it's going to be live here. We're going to start marketing it in not too long. And that one's $1,111. But what we're doing is, for anybody that's in WAF, it's 50% off. So if you are in We Are Alpha Femme, you get 50% off Mid-Year Manifesto, which means it's only going to cost you $555. And if you have credits, you can use your credits. It's like, oh my gosh, this is no brainer. This is so good. So if you would like to do Mid-Year Manifesto, that will be a lot of fun. The other thing I really suggest, if you are a coach, the coach program, like, my favorite testimonial so far, someone said, this is the Bible of the coaching industry. I was like, okay, I'm using that as a testimonial. There is so much magic in this program, and we haven't even started the live portion yet. The live portion starts on June 12th. So you can jump into the coach program right now and still access all of the live stuff. This one's a big one. It's $5,555. You have lifetime access to it. Any new modules I ever add forever, you get it. But on the back end of identity work and Charisma, sharpening your skills as a coach with me is going to be out of this world. And the way this program is created is it's for you. There is not one thing you need I will not put in this program. If you need something in your coaching business and it's not in the program, I will add it into the program. The goal is that it takes you as far as you want to go. Everything from charging $100 an hour in the front seat of my car to charging $500,000 paid in full upfront for private coaching is included in this. Working with entrepreneurs, working with companies, masterminds, private coaching, group coaching, everything, building programs, holding masterminds, one-on-one calls, and anything in between that you might need help with. It's a big program, but you can put it on a 12-month payment plan if you like. And if you do We Are Alpha Femme for a year with me and you add the coach program, you get $1,111 off on it. And so you could get a whole year of We Are Alpha Femme plus the coach program for $6,000 something. There's ways to pair things right now where you get so much value, it's out of this world. So if you have any questions, I will put the links inside of the email replays. I'll add the links to the We Are Alpha Femme group. But if you have questions, you can message the Alpha Femme team on Facebook. But my goal here is that we go far together. And so I would love it if after Charisma, we've got something locked in, whether you're doing We Are Alpha Femme for a year and it's like, let's just do this thing. Let me stay here with you. Let me add more contemplations, Q&As. Let me coach you. Let me spend time with you. Let's have these discussions, plus all the magic that Jack is bringing to the table, plus the fun discounts and the credits and all the things that make it easy for you to add stuff to your journey. Like, let's do that. Or let's go into something like the coach program that's out of this world and that you have lifetime access to, and we're like, build the future together. And obviously, if you came into this program to test, how it feels to be a client of mine and you're ready for big stuff, if you feel like the Alpha Femme experience or AFE Next, which is basically more like a mastermind with me, might be right for you. I mean, we've got such amazing things coming between now and next year. Like the next year in my world is gonna be crazy. I have the greatest programs coming. I'm gonna blow your socks off. So if it feels like you're ready for big things, I'm ready for you also. I just would love for you to make a big move on the end of this. That it's not just like another little dabble, that you're like, let's make something big, whether it's 1 year of WAP, whether it's coach, whether it's AFE or AFE Next. Like if you can make a big move, I think it's going to make a big difference in your life. And then we can say, let's play in these energies for a year. Like what could happen in a year if I actually prioritize this? If I don't just take it at its peak and then go, hopefully I can remember to think about this. If I actually live with this at the forefront of my life, what could happen? I'm excited to play that game with you because it's a fun game and we all win when we play it. Does this apply to the original ones in WAF that are paying the original rate? Do we pay the full rate? So if you buy a full year, in order to get all the perks that we're talking about, you do have to pay for it at the $2,222 in full for the year. But if after that year you want to go back to monthly, you've still got your old price. Or if you want to do another year, it's just worth it more with the perks to do a full year paid in full. You just get more. But if you prefer to stay monthly and pay less, you get less perks, but it's less. And if you do a year, you still have that other price locked in. So if you ever want to go back to monthly after that year, you can at your original price. I'm so happy that you have a year with me too. And I'm so happy that you love coach. My real intention with this is to build the greatest programs I possibly can. And so I'm constantly listening, constantly contemplating, constantly looking for what the market needs and putting it in there for you. I'm so committed to your success. It is wild. Because for multiple reasons, this is a for me, for you, for us thing, but I know that when I reopen my private coaching and when I reopen my close proximity masterminds, it's you guys that are going to be in there. It's going to be you that's going to go from wherever you are now to 10, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100K, $1 million months. You are going to be the ones who do that. Like that's what we're building. It's internally. That's how all the other clients that ended up in my masterminds that were so perfectly aligned for me came from. And then people started hearing my name and came out externally to get something. But the people that were built from within have always been the most extraordinary people. And obviously there's exceptions. There's people who found me who ended up being God sent, but I've loved building internal success. It's been such an incredible thing for me. And the relationships I've built that way have been lifelong. Like I know these people are lifelong for me. And I'm just excited for another round of that. Like, let's build internal success. Let me help you build this thing. Let's have fun. And I look forward to whatever's coming next for us. So I will see you on Monday for the rest of the Q&A. If you can't make it live, you'll have the replay. But I hope you have the most amazing weekend. Have fun. And I shall see you on the internet.